I overheard my fiancée Chloe boasting that as soon as the house was in her name, she would humiliate me by leaving me in front of everyone. Little did she know that I had already prepared a family gathering designed to destroy her plan and mark the day she would never be able to erase from her memory. Hello, everyone. I'm a 33-year-old man who wasted 4 years of his life with a woman who swore she looked like a supermodel and acted like the queen of social media, when in reality she looked more like an exhausted version of a movie character after 3 days with the flu. Get ready because this story has everything. I work as a distribution manager for a regional transportation company. It's not glamorous, but it's stable. I earn about $98,000 a year coordinating routes so the drivers don't wander across half the nation. It's honest and enough to live well. My fiancée, Chloe, is 29 and worked as a social media coordinator for an expensive chain of cold-pressed juices that sold kale smoothies at ridiculous prices. She earned about $52,000 a year, although she spent as if she received 10 times that amount. Her entire identity revolved around her Instagram, 4,200 followers whom she treated as if she were a consolidated influencer. She posted photos of clothes, food, copied and retouched motivational quotes, and behaved as if her profile were a multinational company. She compared herself to actual models. "That model and I have the same bone structure," she would say while posing. "No, Chloe, you don't." Or when she asserted she could be a runway model if she wanted to change her personal brand. I just thought, sure, whenever you want. Yet, when we met 4 years ago in a cafeteria in Astoria, everything was different. The place was packed, and she asked to sit across from me. In barely 5 minutes, we were talking as if we had known each other forever. She had a genuine charm at first, a spark that made any ordinary day feel less heavy. When she told me she wanted to dedicate herself to the world of digital content, I didn't judge her, I helped her. I taught her basic editing, reviewed her texts. I was her impromptu photographer. Her happiness was enough for me. The first year was good. Our families met, we got along well. The second year, the Instagram obsession was already a lifestyle. She started introducing herself as a content creator, writing to brands for collaborations, and receiving rejection after rejection. Her YouTube videos got about 40 views, and half of those were probably her checking them. By the third year, I told myself that everyone has hobbies. Some collect stamps. She needed 50 photos of a latte before drinking it. I kept supporting her, pretending I didn't mind repeating photos 15 times just so her jawline looked more defined. The fourth year, I decided to propose. Not because I was madly in love, but because it seemed like the next thing on the list. We got along well, our families did too, and we had been together for a long time. I took her to the restaurant where we had our first date. I knelt, asked her to marry me, she cried, said yes, and immediately asked me to retake the picture of the ring because her nail polish was chipped. Then she posted about the engagement for an entire week. Her account reached 4,600 followers, and she was ecstatic. Then came the issue of the house. We were both paying senseless rent. I had a decent apartment in Forest Hills. She lived in a studio with a flatmate she detested. Together, we could buy something real. I had been saving for 6 years and had $85,000 put away. Chloe had about $12,000. Still, we decided to put both our names on the deed. We're getting married. What does it matter? I thought. We looked at several options in Queens until we found a 3-bedroom house in Bayside that needed some work but had potential. It cost $470,000. We made the offer, it was accepted, and we scheduled the closing for 2 months later. Chloe exploded with excitement. She posted photos of the exterior, paint samples, inspiration boards, manifestation quotes, and the hashtag homeowner even though we hadn't signed anything yet. Her account reached 5,100 followers. But 3 weeks before the closing, I discovered her true intentions, and believe me, they didn't include me. It was a Tuesday in October. I had taken half a day off to prepare bank documents. Chloe had texted me around noon, saying she'd be at my apartment with some friends and they would be gone by the time I arrived. Perfect. I finished my paperwork ahead of schedule and returned around 3 p.m. As I parked, I heard voices coming from my open window. I was about to text her that I was home, but then I heard my name. Chloe was laughing. As soon as that house is in my name, I'm leaving him in front of everyone. I can't stand this guy anymore. My hand froze on the car door handle. Another voice, surely Jessica, asked, "Are you really going to do it?" Of course. I've put up with his boring personality for 4 years. For years pretending to be interested in transportation routes. Do you know how many dinners with his family I've had to endure listening to talk about trucks? I want to die every time. Several laughs followed. Another friend, probably Fran, intervened. But won't his name be on the deed too? Chloe sighed as if the matter were already settled. Yes, but my dad says that after we get married, there are ways to change it, especially if I can prove he's never home or that I contributed more. A lawyer friend said the best thing is to wait until after the wedding, file for divorce, and get the house in the settlement. And right there I knew. Everything I had built, everything I had given, she was using to secure a future without me. It became nearly impossible to keep my hands on the steering wheel the instant I heard those words. My fingers started to go numb as if the blood had decided to abandon my body. In front of me, inside the parked car, the conversation between Jessica, Fran, and Chloe unfolded with cruel normalcy. "It's simple, direct," Chloe said, completely calm. "That's ruthless," Jessica replied, though she ended up laughing. "It's strategic," Chloe insisted. "He earns well, sure, but he's already reached his limit. He's a distribution manager. He's not going up any further, zero ambition. I, on the other hand, am building my brand. My social media presence is growing. When I'm a divorced, homeowner woman in my late 20s, talking about my transformation, my engagement rate is going to explode. That kind of content always goes viral." "And how many followers do you have now?" Fran asked. "About 5,100, Chloe replied proudly. "But when I post I left a liability behind and am living my truth, I'll reach 10,000 effortlessly, maybe even 15,000 if I play my cards right. Single, independent woman, reborn after divorce, pure gold for social media." They laughed again. I, meanwhile, remained paralyzed. "And when are you planning to leave him?" Jessica asked. "I'm considering doing it about 6 months after the wedding," Chloe answered, thinking out loud. "Long enough so it doesn't look suspicious, but not so long that I'm no longer in my late 20s when I re-enter the market." She took a deep breath, excited by her own coldness. "And the best part," she continued, "is that I'm going to break up with him in front of everyone at some dinner or family gathering. I'm going to announce it right there and watch him crumble." "Oh my God, that is evil," Fran said through laughter. "He's going to cry," she added. "He's so emotional about everything. Remember when his childhood dog died? He was a wreck for an entire month. Imagine his face when I tell him I never loved him and only used him to get a house. That content practically writes itself." "What if he fights for the house?" Jessica asked. "With what?" Chloe scoffed. "My dad's friend is a shark. Plus, I've been documenting everything. Every time he works late, I record it as neglect. Every outing with his friends, abandonment. When we're done, he'll be lucky if he manages to keep his truck." "You're diabolical," Fran said, admiringly. "I'm smart," Chloe corrected. "In this world you don't advance by being a good person, you advance by being strategic. And I've been strategic for 4 years. As soon as the house is in my name, I'm going to leave that pathetic, boring man in front of everyone and live my best life." They continued talking, but I didn't hear anything else. That part was enough for something inside me to completely break. It had been 4 years of sharing dreams, plans, savings, and in the end, everything was part of an emotional scam to get a property and followers on Instagram. However, rage wasn't the first thing that appeared. What I felt was clarity. Chloe had made a huge mistake. She spoke of her plan before securing the house. That meant I knew everything. And if I knew everything, I could act first. I started the truck, drove away from the parking lot, and stopped at a coffee shop a few blocks away. I needed to think. I stayed there for 2 hours analyzing every move I needed to make. Then I took my first action. I sent Chloe a message. "I'll be late, not back until 6. Have fun with your friends." She replied immediately. "But I love you." We're just chatting. Chatting. But when I got home that night, I found the kitchen impeccable and Chloe humming while reviewing paint samples on her phone. She kissed me as if everything were normal. "How was your day?" she asked. "Good. Lots of paperwork," I replied. "I'm thinking about the bank meeting. We're close to being homeowners." Homeowners? As if she really believed the plan was mutual. "I've been thinking," I said calmly, "maybe we should put everything on hold with the house for now." Her face changed instantly. "What? Why?" "Maybe we should wait a few months. Make sure we're really ready. It's a big commitment." "We already made an offer," she retorted anxiously. "They accepted it. We can't back out now. We haven't signed the final papers yet. We'd only lose the earnest money deposit. About $5,000. That money is ours. How can we let it go?" "It's better than rushing if we're not ready," I insisted. Her eyes narrowed. "Where did this come from?" "Just a little doubt about the timing. We can wait until after the wedding, make sure everything is okay." She watched me as if trying to read my mind. "Is this about money? I already told you I'll pay you back my half when I can." "It's not about money," I replied. "I just want to make decisions thinking about both of us." She didn't like it but didn't press further. We ate dinner in silence. At 9 p.m., she said she was heading back to her apartment. As soon as the door closed, I took a breath and moved to the next phase. The next morning, I called the real estate agent. "I need to cancel the offer." "Are you sure?" "You'll lose the deposit." "I'm sure. Send me the documents and your fiancée. She will receive the same notification. Tell her I made the decision." Then I called my mother, Diana. "Can you organize a family dinner this Friday? I want both families to be there." "Of course, son. What are we celebrating?" "I'll explain it on Friday. Make sure Chloe's parents come too. Everything is fine. It will be." Immediately after, I texted Chloe. "My mom wants to host a dinner this Friday with both families. To properly celebrate the engagement." She replied in seconds. "What a lovely gesture. That Manhattan restaurant my mom likes. At 7. Perfect. I'll wear the new dress." And she believed it. I knew she would. Friday arrived. I walked into the restaurant at 6:45 p.m. White tablecloths, soft lighting, dishes that cost what I earned in a day. My parents arrived first, followed by my brothers Matt and Sebastian, accompanied by their wives. Everything was ready for what was coming. We had reserved a large table in the restaurant, wide enough to comfortably fit both families. Half the table was occupied when Chloe's family arrived, precisely at 6:55 p.m. It was typical of them, punctual, proper, mindful of the image they projected. Diana appeared in a sober dress that highlighted her refined taste. Her hair was perfectly pulled back, and her makeup lightly but carefully applied. Beside her came Robert, suited up as if he had just come from a corporate meeting where he was forced to present results to 20 strangers. His rigid posture and the briefcase in his hand reinforced that impression. I myself was slightly tense. I knew exactly how the night would end, but everyone else was convinced it would be a family occasion to celebrate progress or important announcements. I had decided it would happen there, surrounded by the people she herself had wanted to impress for so long. At 7 o'clock sharp, Chloe appeared, and her entrance was anything but casual. She walked toward us with a studied confidence, as if she were advancing on an invisible red carpet. She wore a tight black dress that accentuated every curve, heels that barely made a sound but streamlined her posture, impeccable makeup, and hair curled with almost surgical detail. It was evident that she had spent hours preparing, thinking about how she would look every time a camera pointed at her. That was her real priority. As soon as she arrived, she scanned the table with a perfectly rehearsed smile, the one she knew made a good impression in photos and in person. She hugged my mother with exaggerated affection, greeted my father with a light kiss on the cheek, complimented my sisters-in-law's clothing as if she were a fashion expert, chatted briefly with her parents, and then took her seat with a triumphant air. She settled in next to me, sliding her hand onto my leg under the table in a gesture that feigned affection. Although I knew it was simple theatrics, she wanted to appear like the perfect future bride. She needed everyone to see her as the ideal woman for me and for a life she intended to exploit. I waited patiently for the waiters to bring the dishes. I watched as everyone began to serve themselves, oblivious to the impending explosion. I took a sip of water, calmly breathed, and set the glass down next to the silverware. Then I placed both hands on the table, pausing briefly to ensure every conversation around me stopped. "I wanted to gather you all today because I have something to announce," I said in a deliberately clear tone. Silence fell over the table like a heavy blanket. My mother put down her cutlery. My father raised an eyebrow. My brothers straightened up. Everyone turned their attention to me. And Chloe, she lit up. Her eyes shone with an almost voracious anticipation. She was convinced I was about to give a romantic announcement, a wedding date, a surprise trip, perhaps even the formalization of the house she wanted in her name. I imagined she was already thinking of the caption she would put on Instagram. "Chloe and I are finished. The wedding is off. Our relationship ends here," I announced firmly. The atmosphere froze in an instant. Chloe's smile shattered like struck glass. "What?" she stammered, disbelief marking every syllable. "It's over," I repeated. "The entire relationship." Her face transformed in a matter of seconds. I saw her move through confusion, then surprise, then contained rage, and finally, a shame so deep she could barely breathe. "Is this a joke?" she asked, but her voice no longer sounded confident, but tense, brittle. "It's not a joke," I replied calmly. "This week I overheard you talking with your friends in my apartment. You were planning to use me so the house would be in your name, marry me, and 6 months later divorce me, taking whatever you could. According to you, I was pathetic, boring, and only useful to finance the life you wanted to show off on social media." The color completely drained from her face. She looked like a ghost, a collapsed version of the woman who had walked into the restaurant with such confidence. "You also said you wanted to leave me publicly in front of our families to record my reaction and upload it as content. You wanted to see me cry? Well, here is your public breakup, though it didn't turn out exactly as you imagined." I noticed the trembling in my mother's hands as she placed her napkin on her lap. She didn't say anything, but her gaze burned. My father hardened his jaw, and my brothers watched Chloe as if she were a stranger. Chloe's mother, Diana, clumsily stood up, unsure whether to intervene or leave. Robert, for his part, was red, immobile, staring at his plate with a shame that kept him paralyzed. You were spying on me," Chloe managed to say, almost breathless. "You had the window open," I replied. "You were in my parking lot planning a real estate scam. That's not exactly being discreet." She shook her head as if to reject the reality itself. "And don't forget what you told Jessica and Fran, that I had reached my professional maximum, that I had no ambition, that having dinner with my family made you wish you could disappear. You said that as soon as the house was in your name, you would leave me because I was, according to you, a pathetic man. That's what you said." I saw Robert cover his face with his hands, unable to confront the humiliation. "It's over," I repeated with the same relentless calm. "I already withdrew my name from the house proceedings, and you should leave." "You're humiliating me," she whispered, visibly trembling. "You plan to do it. I just moved your own show up by 6 months." My brother Matt crossed his arms, indignant, never taking his eyes off her. Sebastian murmured a confused, "What coldness," though not directed at me, but at what she had tried to do. Then my mother spoke, her voice hard as cracked ice. "You had better leave, Chloe." Diana immediately grabbed her purse with hands so tense they almost warped it. "Let's go," she said without looking back at anyone. Robert slowly stood up. He looked at me only once with a mixture of apology and pain and then directed another look at his daughter, one that carried the weight of disappointment and a deep sadness that he didn't try to hide. Chloe burst into tears. Her heels wobbled with every step. Her makeup ran, and her breathing was an uncontrolled gasp. Diana held her as they moved toward the exit. Robert walked behind them, his shoulders slumped. When the door closed behind them, a heavy silence remained. No one knew what to say until my father cleared his throat. "Well, intense," he commented, trying to break the tension. My mother, unperturbed, picked up her fork. Let's continue then, she said, as if that ended the drama. Matt leaned back in his chair, still surprised. Dude, what the hell was that? One of my sisters-in-law, more cautious, added, You could have ended it in private. She planned to do it in public with me, I replied. I just moved up her own spectacle. Nothing more. Sebastian whistled softly. That's cold, brother. My mother squeezed my hand firmly, but also with relief. You did the right thing. That woman would have ruined your life. I nodded without adding anything else. That night, when I returned to my apartment near 11 p.m., I found 3 boxes next to the entrance. They belonged to Chloe. Clothes, bath products, small trinkets she had left to feel more comfortable in my home. I myself had packed them on Wednesday after canceling the house proceedings. I took the boxes downstairs and left them by the curb. I went back up, closed the door, and went to sleep, feeling an honest silence for the first time in weeks. Saturday morning, I woke up with my phone screen saturated with notifications. I had 43 missed calls, 17 from Chloe, 12 from Diana, 6 from Robert, and the rest from unknown numbers that undoubtedly belonged to her friends. I made coffee and sat down to check the messages while the coffee maker was still dripping. Chloe had sent 31 texts between midnight and 5 a.m. Her tone quickly changed from one extreme to the other: demand, plea, anger, confusion, victimhood, and even attempts at emotional manipulation. Call me. We need to talk. I don't understand what's wrong with you. You're destroying the best thing that ever happened to you. How could you do this to me? Answer me. I love you. Please, you're going to regret this. Everyone thinks you're crazy. I blocked her number without a second thought. There was nothing to talk about. I opened Instagram out of curiosity. There she was, a photo of her crying in her old bedroom, strategically lit to evoke pity. The accompanying text said, When the person you trusted most destroys your life for no reason. Stay strong, Queen. You deserve more than someone who gives up when things get tough. The comments were a collective applause for her performance, her loss. You're too much for him. Time to shine. I blocked her on all her social media accounts as well. Around noon, the doorbell rang. I checked the intercom camera. It was Chloe. She wore a wrinkled sweatshirt, her face was puffy from crying, her hair was shapeless, and she held a coffee cup as if it were the only thing keeping her standing. Beside her was Jessica, the same one who had encouraged her to execute that brilliant plan that was supposed to turn her into an aspirational influencer. Jessica was on the other side of the intercom, with crossed arms and a stern expression visible even through the building camera. I pressed the button. What do you want? I asked. Chloe's voice sounded shaky. I need my things. I know you left my boxes outside and people took them. I just want what's left. You should have taken them when you had the chance. Jessica, who was next to her, leaned toward the intercom. Stop acting like a child and let her get her belongings. She has the right to collect them. She already had that right when I took everything out of my apartment and left it ready for her to pick up, I replied. It's not my problem if people took what they thought was free on the curb. You can't just steal her things. Jessica retorted. I didn't steal anything. I removed her belongings from my home and made them available. She chose not to come. Chloe's voice cracked. Please, I just want to take what's left. Then I'll leave you alone. I promise. I stared at the monitor for a few seconds. Part of me wanted to tell them to leave forever, but another part wanted Chloe to remember exactly who she had tried to play. Fine. 5 minutes, nothing more. Take yours and leave. I buzzed them in. They reached my door a minute later. I opened it but stood in the frame, blocking the way. Where are my things? Chloe asked. What's left is in the closet next to the bathroom. You have 5 minutes. Don't touch anything else. They entered. Chloe immediately went to the closet and started pulling out clothes, some shoes, a makeup bag. She had a trash bag where she was stuffing everything. Meanwhile, Jessica brazenly wandered through the living room, looking around as if analyzing the apartment. Nice place, she commented. It must be tough knowing you're going to die here. I just ignored her. I watched Chloe push her things into the bag, barely looking at me. You know? She really did love you, Jessica said, still looking around. She made a mistake. It can happen to anyone. People make mistakes, I replied. But what Chloe did wasn't a mistake, it was a 4-year plan to commit fraud. That's something else. You're so dramatic, she retorted. She was just talking with her friends. Everyone talks badly about their partner sometimes. Talking badly is saying, "This thing bothers me." Planning to take away someone's house and publicly expose them to gain followers is something entirely different. That's not venting, it's malice. Chloe returned to the living room with the full bag. Her eyes were red. Done. I have what I need. Perfect. Now leave. I'm sorry, she murmured, for everything. I know I messed things up. You're sorry you got caught. Not for what you did. That's very different. Jessica took a step toward me. You know what? You're not a saint either. You're a bitter, boring guy who probably drove her to say what she said. I'm sure if you had a little personality, she wouldn't have needed to think about an exit. I looked at her closely. You're upset because you encouraged her to attempt fraud, and it all blew up in both your faces. Now she's humiliated, and you look pathetic for supporting her. That's what's happening. Whatever you say, she spat. I sleep soundly. And Chloe, how does she sleep? Knowing she lost 4 years and a chance at a home because she couldn't keep her mouth shut. Chloe's face crumbled. New tears streamed down her cheeks. That's low, Jessica said. Low is planning to record someone's reaction while you emotionally ruin them just to upload it to social media. I'm just telling the truth. Chloe wiped her face. You're really not going to forgive me? You're going to regret this, she warned. One day you'll realize what you lost, and it will be too late. I know exactly what I lost. A manipulator with delusions of grandeur. I'm quite comfortable with that loss. Jessica took her arm. Let's go. He's not worth it. Chloe walked toward the door but stopped for a second to look at me again. You think you're so smart, but you'll end up alone, frustrated, and you'll know it was because you didn't know how to forgive. You're going to see yourself living with your parents in your 30s, posting desperate photos, seeking attention while all your former classmates watch your downfall. Everyone chooses their path, I said. Jessica's eyes narrowed. Be careful. Sometimes life gives people back what they put out. Is that a threat? It's advice. Perfect. Now get out of my apartment. They left. I watched them walk down the hallway as they started arguing before even reaching the elevator. Something about Chloe being foolish for apologizing and something about me being unbearable. I closed the door, locked it, and went back to my coffee. Around 6 p.m., I left for the store. I took my keys and went down to the parking lot, and there I saw it. My truck, my black 2019 Dodge Ram 1500, immaculate since I bought it 2 years ago. It was my pride, and the driver's side was destroyed. Deep scratches ran across the entire door. They weren't random scratches. They formed a word engraved with force, letter by letter, fool. Hours of work and thousands of dollars ruined in seconds. I felt a strange chill in my chest. I took out my phone, opened the security camera app for the parking lot. The building was full of them, and scrolled back the recording an hour. There it was, Chloe's silver Honda Civic, parked 3 spots away from mine. Chloe getting out of the car, looking around. Jessica getting out of the passenger seat. They talked for a few seconds. Jessica pointed to my truck, gesturing. Chloe shook her head. Jessica took her shoulder and said something that made her nod. Then, Chloe took out her key and started writing, letter by letter, deep, calmly, making sure it couldn't be erased or disguised. Jessica stood watch, looking in all directions, making sure no one appeared. When they finished, they both stepped back, looked at their handiwork with satisfaction. Jessica even took a photo, surely to show off later to her friends. Then they got back in the car and left. I saved the video to my phone, downloaded it, and backed it up on 3 different cloud drives. Then I called a body shop. How much does it cost to fix deep scratches across the entire side door? The entire panel needs repainting. Depending on the model, between $2,500 and $3,000. I hung up. I took my work phone, the only one Chloe hadn't blocked. I sent her a message. I have HD video footage of you and Jessica keying my truck at 5 p.m. It shows your faces, your license plate, and the entire process. You have 24 hours to send me $3,000 for the repair, or I file a police report for vandalism and property damage. Your choice. 3 minutes later, the phone rang. It was Chloe. I answered. You have 24 hours, I repeated. You can't prove it was me. I just told you I have a high-definition video. Do you want me to send it to you so you can watch yourself committing a crime? Silence. I don't know what you're talking about, she managed to say weakly. I saw you, Jessica, the car, the license plate, everything. I took a deep breath as I continued reviewing the material I had stored on my phone and in my personal backup. Every image, every video, every audio, every screenshot, all perfectly organized by date and time. I had spent the previous night reviewing it with a surgeon's patients, confirming that every fragment was clear, that the damage they had caused could be clearly seen, and above all, the proof that it wasn't an accident or a misunderstanding. I even had the photograph she herself took saved, the one she used to mock me. Everything was there, ready to build a timeline of events that any police officer or prosecutor could understand effortlessly. When Chloe realized I had everything, she let out a strangled sigh, a sound that was not just surprise, but fear disguised as indignation. This is blackmail, she blurted out, forcing herself to sound firm, though the tension in her voice betrayed her. No, I replied calmly, like someone explaining the obvious. This is giving you a chance to correct what you did before I have to involve the police. You have 24 hours to transfer $3,000 to me. If I don't have it by this time tomorrow, I will submit all the material. You will be charged with property damage, vandalism, and even conspiracy, because Jessica appears they're clearly collaborating. And once that happens, I want to see how you get real collaborations with a criminal record. There was a brief silence before she murmured, I don't have $3,000. You should have thought about that before destroying my truck, I countered without raising my voice. You have 24 hours. Don't contact me again unless it's to confirm the payment. I hung up without giving her room to respond. I had no intention of listening to excuses or dramatic speeches. Barely 20 minutes later, my phone vibrated. A Venmo notification. An incoming payment. Chloe had sent the $3,000. The note accompanying the transfer said, "You are a bad person." I looked at the phrase for a few seconds as if they were trying to make me feel guilty, but I felt absolutely nothing. I accepted the payment without replying. I stood up, walked to the window, and opened the blinds just a crack to look out at the parking lot. Below, I easily recognized Chloe's Honda. She was there with Jessica, arguing with increasing energy. Although I couldn't hear what they were saying from the 7th floor, the scene was compelling. Chloe gestured, pointing toward my building, probably my window. Jessica yelled back at her with a fury she hadn't shown before, jabbing a finger into her chest as if she wanted to pierce her. Suddenly, Chloe pushed her. A clumsy, desperate shove, more emotional than aggressive. Jessica lost her balance, recovered her footing at the last second, and responded with another push, but more calculated and much stronger. Chloe hit her back against her own car. They both started screaming at each other. Although I could only interpret what was happening from their postures, Chloe was crying, her shoulders trembling and her lips tense. Jessica seemed to barely contain her rage, almost as if she wanted to keep hitting her. Chloe showed her phone, likely showing her the payment, blaming her for getting her into this mess. Jessica's eyes widened in disbelief. She shouted something I couldn't distinguish. She walked toward her old Toyota, yanked the door open, and drove away without even looking back. Chloe was left alone, trembling, wiping her tears with abrupt movements, looking up at my floor as if she expected me to appear or as if she wanted to say something. Finally, she got into her Honda, started the engine, and left as well. I closed the blinds, turned off my phone screen, and collapsed onto the couch. There was a new message on my work line. I opened it. I hope you're happy. You just destroyed a 4-year friendship. I blocked her number, deleted the message, and went on with my routine. I prepared dinner calmly, chose a movie at random, and enjoyed a surprisingly quiet evening. The relief of having closed that chapter was more pleasant than I imagined. On Wednesday, While watching television in the living room, the intercom rang. I went to check the camera, expecting to find Chloe, attempting one last dramatic maneuver, but it was Jessica, one of the friends most involved in the conversation I had overheard days earlier, the same one who had called the plan to take my house brilliant. She wore a low-cut top, tight pants that accentuated every curve, and impeccable makeup, as if she had come straight from a date or thinking she could turn this visit into one. I pressed the talk button. "What do you want?" "Hi, can we talk?" "I wanted to apologize for everything," she replied in a soft, almost rehearsed voice. "You can apologize from there." "Come on, it's cold. Just 5 minutes, please." I shouldn't have done it, but against my better judgment, I let her up. She knocked on the door a minute later. I opened it, staying in the frame to block the entrance. She gave me a perfectly calculated smile, the one that probably worked in bars, parties, and any situation where someone wanted to flirt without saying it directly. "I just want to say I'm sorry. Chloe was wrong. What she did has no justification." "Perfect," I replied. "Apology accepted. You can leave now." "Can I come in for a minute?" "No." She bit her lower lip, shifted her weight to one side to highlight her hip, and added with a theatrical sigh. "I really feel bad about all this. I should have told her to be honest with you. I should have advised her better. I should have." "You should have not encouraged her to commit fraud," I replied, cutting off her act. "But hey, here we are." I know. I made a mistake," she said, leaning a hand on the doorframe. "Maybe I could make it up to you? I don't know, buy you dinner, go out to talk, something." At that moment, I fully understood her intention, and the situation seemed so ridiculous that I almost burst out laughing. "Are you seriously trying to seduce me?" She smiled even more, as if taking it as a sign of progress. "I just want to apologize in an appropriate way." "By sleeping with me?" I asked, without softening anything. She didn't deny it. "Well, if that's what happens naturally." I laughed without holding back. "Let me see if I understand. Your friend tried to take a house from me. You said her plan was brilliant. I broke up with her. She keyed my truck, and now you show up here dressed as if you're about to start a shift at a club, thinking you're going to fix the day. What is this? Do you want to finish what she started, or are you simply hoping I'm naive enough to fall for it a second time?" Her face flushed red. "It's not like that." "It is exactly like that," I replied. "This puts you in an embarrassing spot. The audacity to come here thinking I'm easy to manipulate. No, thank you. I don't want dinner or to talk or any of this. You can leave." Her smile completely vanished. "You're really going to end up alone if you keep this up. Better alone than caught in this sad spectacle. Goodbye." She turned on her heels, rolling her eyes, but barely took a few steps when another voice came from the hallway. It was Chloe. She stopped short when she saw Jessica outside my door. First, she looked at her, then my open door, then at her again. Her expression tensed. "What are you doing here?" Jessica froze as if caught stealing something. "I came to talk to him. About you, to fix things." "Seriously, you're doing this?" Chloe responded with utter disbelief. Before she could add more, quick footsteps were heard. It was Fran, the third friend in the group, who, upon seeing the scene, let out a scoff. "Seriously, you came with that outfit? What's wrong with my clothes?" Jessica protested, crossing her arms. "You look ready to party, not to resolve a conflict." "I just wanted to talk to him," Jessica replied. Woman to woman. Chloe's voice went flat, tired, almost defeated. "You were trying to sleep with him?" "No, I just wanted to help you." Jessica raised her voice. "Besides, he's not your fiancé anymore. You said so yourself." I remained at the door, witnessing everything as if watching a special episode of a low-budget reality show. "I can't believe this," Chloe said, her voice cracking. "I'm going through the worst moment of my life, and you come here to try to sleep with him. If you hadn't been so careless as to tell your plans where he could hear you, none of this would have happened," Jessica retorted. "So now it's my fault." "Oh yes. You got greedy, you got caught, and now you're alone, ruined, and back living at your parents' house." Jessica couldn't finish. Chloe's hand slammed against her cheek with a dry slap, so loud that the echo resonated down the hallway. Jessica's head snapped back. She froze for a few seconds, surprised, and then returned the slap with even more force. Chloe stumbled, grabbed the wall for support, touched her cheek as if expecting to see blood, and then lunged at Jessica with a choked cry. The two tangled in a chaotic struggle, pulling hair, hitting arms, pushing, shouting accusations like, "You're a terrible friend and you're completely crazy." I took out my phone and started recording. The chaos started in a matter of seconds. I heard a muffled thud against the wall, followed by the sound of a shoe bouncing on the floor. Chloe's purse flew off, and its contents scattered across the hallway. Jessica tried to push her face away with her hand while Chloe pulled her hair with no control. The scene was so fast that by the time I could react, they had separated, each breathing heavily, hair messy, and faces red with rage. "Stay away from him," Chloe yelled, still agitated. "And why should I?" Jessica replied with a mocking smile. "You don't even want him. That doesn't mean you can have him. Are you crazy? This is absurd. Get out." "No, you should get out. You're pathetic and you know it," Jessica snapped as she bent down to put her shoe back on. "You had everything and you ruined it. Don't blame me for the mess you made yourself." Without waiting for a response, Jessica turned and rushed down the stairs. Chloe, however, remained motionless, her makeup running again. When she looked up at me, none of the confidence she always faked remained. "This is all your fault," she said, pointing a finger at me. "No," I replied calmly. "This is the consequence of your decisions. I am just witnessing the spectacle. You managed to turn everyone against you. That wasn't my job. You took care of that yourself. I simply stopped being blind." "I loved you," she whispered, her voice trembling. I didn't correct her. "What you loved was the house I could buy you, and believe me, the difference is huge." She bent down to pick up her things. Lipstick, wallet, her phone with the cracked screen. Every movement was clumsy, almost desperate. "You're going to regret this," she told me without looking at me. "You've been saying that for weeks. I'm still waiting. I hope you end up alone," she spat, looking at me with a hatred I had never seen in her. "It's still better than ending up with you," I replied. "That says a lot." Without another word, she headed for the stairs, convinced that the elevator was too slow for the dramatic scene she wanted to stage. I simply locked the door. I saved the video to my phone and prepared something to eat while thinking about my next step. Knowing her, Chloe wouldn't stop this easily. The same woman who had keyed my truck and sent her friend to try to seduce me wasn't going to disappear without causing trouble. On Thursday morning, I officially filed for a restraining order. I brought my entire file: recordings, photos of the damage, videos with date and time, screenshots of the threatening messages, and the proof of the $3,000 payment. The official reviewed every document and commented that she rarely saw a case so meticulously documented. That same day, I received the temporary order. The judge signed it within hours. Chloe was prohibited from approaching within 500 feet of me under penalty of arrest. Her mother, Diana, started calling my work, trying to paint me as a monster who had destroyed her daughter's life. My boss asked me to explain the situation. I showed him everything: the conversation I had overheard, the evidence of the damage to my truck, the messages. He backed me completely and even sent a report to Human Resources in case Chloe attempted to interfere with my employment. 2 days later, her father, Robert, called me. His tone had nothing to do with his wife's. He sounded exhausted, ashamed. He told me he was completely unaware of Chloe's plans and was horrified when he found out everything. He apologized for not having raised her better. He said she would be moving back in with them because she could no longer afford her apartment, and they would try to understand where they had failed. His shame was evident, and honestly, he had reasons to be. 3 weeks later, the final hearing arrived. Chloe attended, accompanied by a public defender who seemed to prefer being anywhere else. She tried to argue that I was exaggerating, that she was just trying to close the chapter and retrieve her belongings, insinuating that I was the obsessive ex who couldn't let go. When it was my turn, I presented all the evidence: the video of the truck keying, the footage of her with Jessica, the Venmo payment with her insulting note, and the threatening messages. The judge's expression changed with every file he reviewed. It was evident that with each piece of evidence I presented, his patience wore a little thinner. Finally, he set the documents aside, interlaced his hands, and leaned forward, studying Chloe with a seriousness that made even her lawyer swallow hard. The public defender attempted one last maneuver, repeating that she just wanted to close a complicated chapter and that my actions were an overreaction born of resentment. The judge raised an incredulous eyebrow and asked Chloe to directly clarify if she had been responsible for the damages I had reported. She opened her mouth to answer, but all that came out was a clumsy stammer. The judge, without wasting time, ordered the video to be played on the courtroom screen. As soon as the image of Chloe appeared, so clear that there was no way to dispute her identity, the silence became absolute. The only sound was the clip playing and the murmur of the air conditioning. She pursed her lips, aware that there was no more room for excuses or alternative versions. Her lawyer sank slightly into his chair, resigned. The judge took a deep breath before speaking, as if needing to contain the frustration accumulated from so much ignored evidence. He declared that her actions constituted deliberate aggression toward my property and a direct violation of my rights, noting that her behavior showed a total lack of control and respect for the law. Without hesitation, he extended the restraining order for 2 more years and warned that if she even thought about approaching me or attempting communication, immediate criminal charges would be pursued. When the session was adjourned, Chloe walked out of the courtroom with stiff steps, as if every movement reminded her that she could no longer sustain the appearance she had so carefully maintained. There were no tears, only an empty expression of defeat and bewilderment. Her carefully constructed world, the romance she boasted about, the impeccable social media image, the facade of a perfect life, had crumbled in front of a judge, in front of her lawyer, in front of everyone. As I walked toward the parking lot, I decided to check her social media account out of curiosity. What I found confirmed her decline. Only a few posts remained, most irrelevant, with no trace of the luxurious life or appearances she used to sell. The number of followers had dropped drastically, and the comments spoke more of concern than admiration. A recent photograph showed a cloudy sky with a quote that looked like a desperate attempt to start over. It had barely received any engagement. For the first time, it seemed evident to me that her personal brand no longer had the strength to sustain anything. And so, as I returned to my car, I understood something simple but liberating. Not only had I recovered my peace, but I had also definitively closed a chapter that she herself had destroyed. Her downfall was not a cause for celebration, but a reminder that setting boundaries in time had saved me from a greater disaster.